Alright, so I'm recording the second half on my cell phone because my iPad has gone kaput. I guess it has no more memory. Anyway, I wanted to say, as far as my daughter, she has truly come through since he's passed away. And she said, you know, she couldn't handle it when he was sick and taking care of him. He'd become incontinent, so we had to change him. And it was some really ugly stuff and stuff that you don't want to see. Again, someone who was strong and healthy. And it took him out, you know, in 8 years, which seemed like it was at the time a long time, but it wasn't. 8 years is nothing. So she's really come through with helping her grandmother, being there for her. Her way of grieving and working through things is to keep busy. She's kept, excuse me, very, very busy. I'm a person that, you know, I was in the bed 2.5 days. Numb. Wasn't eating, wasn't drinking, wasn't just crying and sleeping. That's how I grieve. She does not do that. She is going to find something to do to keep herself busy, keep her mind busy, and I respect that. I respect everyone's way of grieving, however that may be. Nothing hurt like losing my father, and you can't prepare. You don't know how you're gonna feel. Just a short story of, you know, saying you don't know how you're gonna feel. My mother had called me up Thursday because she needed help cleaning my dad. You know, the dead weight. He was, you know, just basically just laying there. You know, she couldn't move him. My mother has a bunch of health problems herself. So for her to care for him for 6 weeks was really difficult because, you know, he was incapable. The first maybe 2.5, 3 weeks, he was able to get on the bedside potty, but still needed help with that. And then his legs completely went on him. He had a tumor in his spine and a slip disc. So we figured the tumor pressing on his spine made him go paralyzed. So anyway, she called me Thursday. I went up. I'm 45 minutes south of her. Just moved in October from being 10 minutes from her. So 45 minutes I go up. And I helped her clean him up, contacted the hospice nurse. She came and also helped us. And it was a mess. But the nurse told us that oftentimes people will empty out, even though he hadn't eaten in 3 weeks and was barely taking in any water, their body just empties out, so before they die. So apparently that's what happened. So we cleaned him up, and I told my brother, I called my brother crying, called my husband crying. My daughter was working and wasn't able to come that Thursday, but he his speech was really blurred and muffled at that time. We could barely understand him, but he had what they call a moment of clarity, because I Googled everything about, you know, every step of everything in the dying process. He had a moment of clarity, made us laugh, and you know, kind of hugged everybody and held everybody's hand. And my mother told him, honey, I want you to go to sleep, you know, to rest. And he looked at her, he said, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep. And he went to sleep. My daughter came Friday and saw him, and he'd had another accident, and she actually helped us clean him up that time, but was crying. You know, just like, Mommy, I can't take seeing him like this. And I talked to him for her. She was there holding his hand because she just couldn't get the words out of how much he loved her, how much she loved him, and appreciated everything that he did for her, and just loving her like a father. And he was reaching out to her. He hadn't been responsive up until that point, but reaching out to her and was kind of opening his eye, trying to look at her. He had lost his eyesight. We know completely, at least in one eye, and in the other eye, I think, you know, he couldn't see well. So he was reaching out to her, and I said, you know, like he wanted to hug her, but didn't have, you know, the strength. So she held his hand and kissed him. Cried. She said, I don't want to say goodbye. And I said, you don't have to say goodbye. Just let him know you love him. And she did, and then she eventually left. and he went to sleep again and did not ever wake up. Wasn't responding to noises, us talking to him, anything. So I think he was in a coma Friday afternoon. And he, that night, I just had a bad feeling. I said, I'm going to sleep down here on the couch with him. And, you know, my mother went upstairs, went to bed. And I didn't sleep because his breathing was labored. He had the, what they call a fish out of water breathing. The breathing stopped, and I was all night thinking, okay, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? Because it kept breathing and then stopping. And that wasn't it. So 6 o'clock that morning, I went upstairs, told my mom, come down. You know, she jumped out of bed. What's up? What's going on? I said, you know, he's still here. I want you to come downstairs. I don't have a good feeling. And, you know, we both took turns getting ready for the day, taking a shower. One sat down, went up, you know, whatever. And then we were just sitting on the couch talking and just, you know, not believing this was happening. And at that time, his breathing was really, really loud, and all of that just stopped. So I got up and I felt his chest, and I said, Mom, I think he's gone. And, you know, we were both really, really calm. And I had called the nurse because, you know, hearing it rattle. So she was on her way anyway. And I think we were there probably 30, 35 minutes with him. After he was gone, my mother was in the kitchen putting the dishes away or something, kind of, I guess, blocking it out. And she kept saying, you know, calm down, because I was crying a little bit but wasn't hysterical. She said, you know, we don't know yet. And I just thought to myself, I do know. You know, I know he's gone. He hasn't moved. And we can't hear him breathing, and he was breathing really loud and really labored. He's gone. So the nurse came in. My mom went to the door and said, you know, I think he's gone. And she checked him out. She was like, well, you know, she has to officially check him and pronounce him. And I was standing at the foot of the bed, just rubbing his feet, rubbing his legs. And my mother was still in the kitchen. And she just looked at me and shook her head and said she was sorry, and put her arms out. And I cried. It felt like my whole being had just come out of me. I cried, and my knees were buckling, and I was coming down, and I was pulling her down with me. And fortunately, there was a chair behind me, otherwise I would have hit the floor. And I just screamed. I screamed until no sound came out. And I looked at my mother, and she was just pacing and saying something. I don't know what she was saying. We both were losing. And then for it to finally happen, you're still in shock. We were in utter disbelief that he's gone. He's in the bed, gone. The worst day of my life. The absolute worst day of my life. My husband came, and I saw him and collapsed in his arms. And went to the funeral home to finalize things, because there's only so much you can do in preparation of. They actually have to be dead, you know, for them, because my mother was ready to pay them and everything. But, you know, you couldn't do that until after the fact. So when we went, we were prepared to see his body. We couldn't do that because he was decomposing from here up and looked so bad. We couldn't see him. So that was hard because my brother wanted to see him one last time. My mom wanted to see him. I had said I wasn't going to go back, but had changed my mind. He said, I'm going to go back and see him. So that was really hard that we weren't able to see him again because, you know, he had cancer patients sometimes get a really, really, really high fever before they die. And because he still had some weight on him, he was a big guy. Even though he had lost about 90 pounds, he was still big for a cancer patient. He said he kept the heat in him, and that sped up the decomposition. Actually, his doctor called my mom and explained that. The guy at the funeral home really didn't explain it that way. I know that was uncomfortable for him to go through and have to say, no, you can't see him. I can't let you see him that way, because it would have been a nightmare. So I had nightmares about that, just wondering, oh my God, what did he look like? Stupid things like, well, he was so hot, was his face melting? Just crazy stuff that was going through my head. And that just really, really bothered me that he looked so bad that we couldn't see him one last time. But anyway, we're getting through. I have good days and bad days. I'm wanting, going to my parents' house was such a joyous time, and seeing my father, and the house was filled with laughter, and he would always joke, and he was a loud, jovial person in that house. Is so quiet. It is so sad. I see his pictures and it makes me cry. His favorite chair makes me cry. His room, which my mom keeps the door closed, makes me cry. Everything makes me cry. Being there makes me sad, and I want to get to the point where that's not the case. Because I have to be there for my mom. I have to support her, and they lived in that house, had it built from the ground up, 23 years. And she said, we worked hard. Because I'm like, Mom, you won't stay here. He died in the house. And she was like, we worked hard to get this house. This is my home. I'm not going anywhere. Your father and I worked hard. And, I get it. The house is paid for. I get it. She's too old to be packing up stuff and health problems. It's just too much. But, I expressed that to her, that I'm sad. And she said, well, how you think I feel? I got to live here by myself. And yeah, it's sad that your father died here. And, she's making changes to the house. His room, which my mom keeps the door closed, makes me cry. Everything makes me cry. Being there makes me sad. And I want to get to the point where that's not the case. Because, I have to be there for my mom. I have to support her. And they lived in that house, had it built from the ground up, 23 years. And she said, we worked hard. Because I'm like, Mom, you won't stay here. He died in the house. And she was like, we worked hard to get this house. This is my home. I'm not going anywhere. Your father and I worked hard. And, I get it. The house is paid for. I get it. She's too old to be packing up stuff and health problems. It's just too much. But, I expressed that to her, that I'm sad. And she said, well, how you think I feel? I got to live here by myself. And yeah, it's sad that your father died here. And, she's making changes to the house, adding some color. Her favorite color is red. My off-white was as wild as he would get with colors. So she's, making the house her. I never knew how horrible and relentless of a disease that it is. And it just leaves the family, because he's not suffering anymore. We're suffering, missing him, and having horrible memories of the suffering that he went through. And, I didn't even mention the half, because I just don't want to talk about it. But it is horrible watching someone die from cancer. And now, like I said, we have a close friend who's dying. And it's just sad. And it's like, I don't want to go through this again. Don't do things that's going to jeopardize your health, which my father did not do. His father, they believe, had prostate cancer, and then he had a brother that died from colon cancer. So there's definitely something that ran in the family. My brother's 44. We've told him, get your prostate checked every year because it's in the family. And like I said, I got my colon checked because I've been having some issues with my stomach. And fortunately, at this time, I don't have any signs of cancer in my colon. So, go to the doctor, get yourself checked, try to prevent it. But in this instance, that bastard cancer took my father with all the preventative measures, catching it early, all the medicine they put him on. It was nothing they could do in the end. So, be healthy, stay healthy, go to the doctor. You need to know these things. And had he not gotten it checked, maybe they would have found out and he died in a year or two. Who knows? So we had the 8 years. And, I thank God for that. I feel like selfishly it wasn't enough, but we have to come to grips with it and be okay with it, because it is what it is. He is gone. So love one another. Settle differences. All right, y'all. See you later.